opioid, knowing its addiction risk. For more news from a Catholic perspective, visit EWTNnews.com. Take Two with Jerry and Debbie starts now.
Good to have you with us here on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. I'm Jerry Usher along with Debbie Georgiani. We've got the show team in place. Thank you, affiliates, for carrying the program. And thank you, listeners, because we know you're going to carry another program. Isn't that right, Debbie? They always do every day.
Absolutely. Live programs just for you. Call in shows that you can weigh in on, share your life experience, your wisdom. You are the teachers on Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. Let's dive right into this topic, Jerry. This is going to be a good one. I feel it. The fear of happiness. Have you ever been in a situation where you're experiencing great happiness and joy, and then you just kind of feel like, I don't know, there's some impending doom going to happen, or you maybe feel guilty for feeling happy because others are suffering or something of that nature. And so you sabotage your current state of happiness, not intentionally, possibly, it just happens. But did you ever think about this and where it comes from? Well, we did. We did the research on it. But let's talk about it. The fear of happiness. If you feel like, well, this is kind of what's happened to me in recent situations, maybe with my spouse or with my family members or with friends, call in and share your take on this at 833-288-3986.
Yeah, I'm glad you said sometimes we can feel guilty about this. Sometimes we don't feel like we deserve happiness. And we know that Jesus Christ came that we might have life and have it in abundance. And as far as I'm concerned, Debbie, that includes happiness. But I know I can relate in my own life, and I know you're going to talk about how this really can stem from early life, childhood and things like that. But yeah, do call us up here right now, 833-288-3986. Maybe there are people in your life when you have a reason to be happy, they kind of steal that from you. That happens a lot too, I imagine. So 833-288-3986.
So we did the research, and what we learned is very interesting. They have these psychological terms called, forgive me if I don't pronounce it, perfectly, but how do you say it? Hedinophobia?
Hedinophobia, yeah.
Hedinophobia. Okay, so it's the fear of pleasure. And like we just talked about, when others are suffering, you feel guilty. You don't want to. It comes from, the idea that you don't really deserve this happiness, hedinophobia. And then there's another commonly used term that's actually not well defined, but that's now being used in the circles. This doesn't really fall into the psychological journals. And by the way, Jerry and I are not therapists or psychologists, but we can do the research. We know how to do that. It's cherophobia, and cherophobia is the fear of being happy. And the root word comes from the Greek word, I think it's charo, which means rejoice. Okay. And so the fear of rejoicing, the fear of happiness. I just think it's so funny though. When I was thinking, when I was seeing all these terms, Jerry, and they were relating them back to the Greek words, it just made me think, where my mind goes. My Big Fat Greek Wedding, the movie, when the dad goes, the root word is Greek, and then it all stems from Greek. I love that. But it's true. It does stem from the Greek word, charo, which means rejoice, and cherophobia or hedinophobia. It's very interesting. So it's out there, folks. It's a real thing. And what Jerry's tapping into is he was saying that it does relate back to our childhood and memories that we have. So think about this for a minute, Jerry. You have this really good memory of, let's just use this as an example. Your parents are your parents are taking you out for ice cream, right? You're about 4 years old and they're taking you out for ice cream and you're so excited. You can't wait to get a hold of that cone, and you just know it's going to taste good and everything's going to be great. And on the way there, or even after you get the ice cream, your parents have a fight in the car. They have an argument. Okay. And you're sitting in the back seat and you're just trembling because you're going, this is not good. Now, this didn't happen to me, but I'm just using this as an example. So your memory of this happiness of getting the cone, getting an ice cream cone, now has turned into something very tragic. And your body, it stamps this kind of thing in your brain so that you automatically think, okay, I will experience happiness, but then there's something bad going to happen after it. So they've traced it back to our childhood. And after doing this research, Jerry, I had a flood of memories that came back for me, to the point where I called my sister and I was just like crying profusely. And I just said, you're not going to believe this, but I see now why I do it, why I can sabotage happy moments. So I don't know for you, Jerry, what do you think? Did you think this can relate to your childhood?
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that, because I can recall a very vivid childhood memory myself where I sort of stole some happiness from my siblings, and it was a very uncomfortable thing for me. It was one of the first times I was riding a bicycle, and we were going down a hill on a city street, and I was going too fast. I mean, it was one of the first times I had done this, and so I yelled out, "What do I do?" And the person on the bike in front of me just said, "Coast, just coast." And I had no idea what coasting meant, so I ended up going over the handlebars and crashing into the pavement, and I still got the scar on my chin right here. And the reason I bring this up is because my sister got mad because we were going to go get ice cream. And I ruined the trip to go get ice cream. Yeah, so I don't know. That may or may not apply to today's topic, but yeah.
No, but it can. It really can. Our childhood memories, when they are mixed with pleasure and then following a pain of some sort, it can leave this lasting effect on us. Mary Beth weighed in, and she's so right. I was going to share this, and she beat me to it. She says a lot of people, the saying, waiting for the other shoe to fall. And that's so true. When you're in a situation where it feels really good and you'd like to capture this moment forever, but then in the back of your mind, you're going, okay, something's going to go wrong. I just know it. It's going to be taken away from me. Let's talk about this fear of happiness. Please weigh in and share your experience of this at 833-288-3986.
Another term came to mind when I was pondering this, as I do, and I know you do, Debbie, during the night when we wake up and thinking about the next day's topic, self-pity. Sometimes this can, I don't know if in your research you came across that, but sometimes, we just have this pity for ourselves, and anytime we try and, broach that with any sort of pleasure or happiness or, fulfillment in life, it's just like we sort of just take out the baseball bat and kind of beat that down within ourselves. So if anybody feels that way, if you feel like maybe self-pity is a challenge for you, we can talk about that. Again, as Debbie said, we are not therapists, counselors, experts, but we bring up topics that we relate to, and we hope that you do too in some way. So call 833-288-3986. Get a phone line while they're open there.
Text messages are already coming in, and folks are saying that they think that's really cute. They had a visual image, Jerry, of you being a little kid panicking with your bicycle.
I could get close enough to my camera here on my computer and Skype and show you the scar. It's still there.
I've never noticed that scar. I've never noticed.
It's well under my chin, but boy, I had to go to the hospital. Boy, did it hurt.
Ooh, that's bad. Okay, if you have a fear of happiness, please share your story at 833-288-3986. We'll be right back.
Post your intentions on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's website. To get there, just click on the bright yellow J&D logo at take2show.com. Jerry and Debbie personally reply to every prayer intention that's posted. Others will also offer you their prayer support. When there's something important you want prayers for, post it on the prayer wall on Jerry and Debbie's site. Visit take2show.com, click on the J&D logo today.
Vatican officials will meet to decide the fate of disgraced former Cardinal Theodore McCarrick.
Pro-life leaders applauding the president's strong stand for life.
A new poll finds most Americans, including those identifying as pro-choice, are opposed to late-term abortion.
And Pope Francis says the death penalty is contrary to the gospel.
News headlines you can have faith in. Weekdays at the top of the hour on EWTN Radio. EWTN is now on Twitter. Get short, timely messages from EWTN on your computer or cell phone. It's easy to stay up to date on a wide variety of topics. Pro-life news, Vatican announcements, catechesis, apologetics, the latest EWTN programming, and more. You can link to EWTN on Twitter from our homepage or go to twitter.com/EWTN. At work, at home, at school, and on the road. Stay connected to your world with EWTN's Twitter page.
Take two with Jerry and Debbie on a Wednesday, the Feast of St. Augustine, great feast day, following the Feast of his mother, St. Monica, yesterday. And we are talking today about happiness, pleasure, being fulfilled in life, and maybe you have a little bit of an aversion to that. Maybe it comes upon you and you just can't let yourself really experience happiness or pleasure. Or maybe, how do you feel? How do you react when you see other people just totally enjoying happiness, just being so free in their spirit that when happiness or pleasure or something good comes along in their life, they just soak in that, and you just say to yourself, "Man, I wish I could do that." We're going to take your calls in a minute, but I want to tell you about Catholic Connection with Teresa Tomeo. It is at 9 a.m. Eastern Time on most of these EWTN stations. If you're looking for a real Catholic take on what's going on in the media and in the culture and so many other things, it's Catholic Connection, 9 a.m. Eastern Time with Teresa Tomeo.
Pick up those open phone lines, folks, at 833-288-3986. Remember, we say this all the time, but we mean it. You are the teachers. So if you sit this out, if you just learn from what Jerry and I are going back and forth sharing about our research, that's fine, but we need you to weigh in. That's how this show unfolds. It's just a beautiful, organically unfolding show that we believe is prompted by the Holy Spirit. Jerry, we have some more text messages coming in. It says that the Bible says we are to trust and to expect it. So we should be practicing this. Absolutely. Practice it on a daily basis. We should practice being joy-filled and knowing that every moment we live on this earth is precious.
Yeah, and the Bible's very clear, too, that happiness is something we are entitled to. The Psalms are just filled with it. Psalm 1, happy the man who follows not the counsel of the wicked. And other places, my happiness lies in you alone, Lord. So we are called, even in the midst of just the absolute train wreck that the world has become, and maybe always has been since original sin, we're called to kind of look beyond that, see through that, and see God is still King. He is still our Father in heaven. We are His children, and He does have happiness awaiting us. We just have to tap into that. So we're going to get to some of your thoughts here. Again, here's the number. That last open phone line could be yours at 833-288-3986.
Jerry, I was looking at the two terms, the hedonophobia, which is the psychological term, and then the cherophobia, which is a kind of a misunderstood, not well-defined term. I think I'm going to go with the cherophobia for me. It sounds better, doesn't it? I don't like the hedonophobia. It doesn't sound very good. It reminds me of what's the fear of spiders? Arachnophobia? That doesn't sound good either. Yeah, fear of spiders, I believe, is arachnophobia. Don't you remember that there was that creepy movie out, Arachnophobia? I think. Look it up.
Oh, yeah?
Could you look it up? I think it's Arachnophobia. Rich, where are you? You're supposed to be doing the research on this. Tell us.
Well, to get completely off topic, what the fear of the number 13 is, which of course is irrational.
Oh, please please don't tell me that. My son was born on the 13th.
Okay.
Okay, tell me. Well, no, Rich just said yes, it is arachnophobia. Okay, go ahead. Tell me what. There's a fear.
I think it's pronounced triskaidekaphobia. Triskaidekaphobia, if I have that pronounced right. But of course,
if you say that 5 times fast, I will believe it.
There's no need to fear the number 13. Of course, it's just one of those irrational things that the movie makers came up with. Friday the 13th. Anyway, we have totally digressed.
But it's good. Rich just said Jerry is correct, and I just want to add to Rich's comment. Jerry is correct as always, as usual.
Not always.
No, it is. Okay, close enough. Sonora in Houston, Texas is first up here. First time caller, you get the virtual bell on Guadalupe Radio Network. That's how you're listening. Hi, Sonora. Welcome.
Hi there.
Hi, thank you. I'm glad to be here. I'm very nervous, and I'm kind of emotional right now after just telling my quick story, which anybody listening that knows me says nothing's quick. My husband's laughing right now if he's listening. But it was talking about good memories, bad memories. Well, when I was a child, lived very dysfunctional a life. My father was killed by a drunk driver when I was 2.5 years old. So he was gone out of my life. And then my mom and I went and lived with my grandmother and my step-grandpa. And 2 years later, at the age of 4, he shot at my grandmother, and my mom took the bullet, and she lived. That was God's plan. She lived. And then he was arrested and taken off to, an asylum or something like that. So then, bam, he's out of my life. And then 2 years later, my father was taken by a drunk driver while my mom was in the car. He was changing a tire and was hit by a drunk driver. So my whole life, I've not been able to remember anything from my childhood, at least not anything good. And so I've been meeting up with a lot of friends from high school, and they're telling me all of these stories, these great stories from high school. I don't remember. They're giving me specific details, different friends, and I can't remember any of it. Like, I can't remember it. And I can remember some of the bad, but it's almost like, my mind took over and says, okay, we're not going to remember this stuff. But I do remember this. And if this isn't the most powerful thing, it's just absolutely, it just shows what God can do. But he can't do it over, he can do anything. But he doesn't mean he's going to do it overnight. So when I was young, I was like 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. But my mom would drop me off at this lady's house and say, I'll be back in a little while. She'd leave me there for 2 weeks, and she'd just be gone. My mom would just disappear. Well, I called her Mama May. Well, she took me to Second Baptist Church, and that's where I was really introduced to God and Jesus. Since the age of 10, I was baptized, and so that's how I got to know God. Well, and that was when I was young, like 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, then at the age of 10, my mom would leave me at home alone. But I remember specifically laying in the bed just bawling and praying to God and Jesus, please give me a better life one day. Give me a good husband. Give me a good family. And, I prayed that for years. And when I was 18, I met John Storm, fell head over heels in love, and it was God's plan, a devout cradle Catholic. And so I started going to church. Not necessarily because I was drawn to the Catholic Church at all. It was because I wanted to marry John. And so if this is what it takes, then this is what I'm going to do. And so I got confirmed and everything. Well, we dated for 10 years, 8 months, and we got married. And so we've gone to church, over the years, and we've always loved God and, blah, blah, blah. But I still had that Protestant mentality, and I kind of drug him into it. Oh, we don't have to go to church on Sundays to go to, we don't have to go to church to go to heaven. I would tell him that all the time. We don't have to go to church. So we wouldn't. So sometimes we'd go. Thank goodness our son, 22, he's confirmed. Everything's great there. But about 3 years ago, the Holy Spirit got a hold of us, and then we met this wonderful priest. His name is Father Preston. And he's 15 years younger than us, but it's almost like we took him under our wing, but he took us under his. And we are so filled with Catholicism and the faith and the truth. And we need money right now, but literally no one could pay us $1 million to miss Mass. On vacation, it doesn't matter. And so I'm just sharing this I guess because the Holy Spirit wanted me to call you guys and tell you this, but I do struggle with not remembering things. But I'll never forget laying in bed night after night, and especially when bad things would happen. And he answered the prayer, but he answered it when I, met John when I was 19 years old, and then got married in the Catholic Church at the age of 30. And it's just been kind of a whirlwind. I don't know how this relates to the radio, to the talk show or your subject today, but the Holy Spirit told me to call. That's my story, and I'm sorry if I took too long.
You did not take too long, Sonora. You are precious, and thank you for sharing all that you did. And the first thing I would say is you sound happy. You sound extremely well adjusted, if I can use, I guess, kind of a psychological term, even though, as Debbie and I say, we're not experts in any of these fields, but I did take a course in the psychology of adjustment when I was in college, and it really just has to do with how we kind of get things in order in our lives when we've had a lot of bad experiences. And so much of our happiness centers around our relationships and our interactions with our parents. And your experiences, obviously, your memories are stacked with negative events and images, and being dropped off and being told be picked up in a little while, and it becomes 2 weeks. I mean, these also become trust issues later in life as well. And Debbie, it just sounds to me like Sonora has really, by the grace of God and this faith that she's on fire for now, she and her husband, she's really, it sounds like you've really come to a great place.
I totally agree. What do you think, Sonora, before I comment?
Absolutely. With my mom, and I still struggle a little bit, but with my mom, there was just so much hatred and I blamed her for everything. I was just holding on to the blame, and I was holding on to the hate, and it was just making me ill. I mean, it literally made me ill for years, and ever since my husband and I, we started with the book of John. We'd never read the Bible. We started with the book of John, and we just started praying and getting closer and closer. And I didn't ask God, hey, God, will you take this hate that I have away from my mom? Will you just remove it? I didn't even ask for that. I didn't even think to ask for it. But as I got closer to him and his word and just like the Holy Spirit and just, I just, love him so much that I woke up one day or just realized one day, wow, I'm okay with my mom. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not all mad at her anymore. How did that even, but I didn't even ask God.
Mm-hmm.
He did it on his own, just by me getting closer to him.
Mm-hmm. Sonora, I don't think there's any accident. Today's the feast day of St. Augustine, and the phrase, our hearts are restless until they rest in you. And what you did is you rested in the Lord. You Sonora, you absorbed, you soaked in everything that the Lord has to offer, all the wonderful love and security, and it built your trust again. I'm sure your trust was broken as a little kid because all these things, these tragic things were happening around you and you couldn't depend on anybody, but you can depend on God. And so what you did is you absorbed all that, and now it's radiating from you. You are just filled with the Spirit, and I think it's so beautiful. And I would say to others that, that have had, dysfunctional childhoods and things that have happened in our childhood memories, to listen to Sonora's story, because there is hope, there is healing, there is joy, there's prayers answered with you and your husband have a beautiful relationship. I think it's wonderful. We're not therapists, Sonora, but in my research it said that that I did on this particular topic, it said that when you can't remember too much of the memories, the good memories, when you said your reunion, your childhood, it's because the other ones kind of the bad memories overshadowed the good memories. So like with the good memories, it's so natural. With the bad memories, things will stand out because there was maybe an adrenaline rush or cortisol running through your body, or, some visual image you have that stuck with you in your brain. And then I also read in this research that when you don't remember the bad memories, it's really a way for your brain to survive. The brain is so amazing that you kind of probably compartmentalized those memories into a quadrant of your brain that you just are not recalling. But in my opinion, I'm not a therapist, but you sound terrific, and your enthusiasm for the faith is very contagious.
Well, I anyone that's listening, which that could be one or that could be a million, I don't know, but I actually prayed wrong all these years, and I kind of taught my son how to pray wrong. And is there a wrong way to pray? I kind of think there is. And it was always, God, will you bless my family? Will you keep my family safe? Will you do this? Will you do that? Will you do that? And imagine being in a relationship with someone, and all they ever said to you is, will you do this? Will you do that? Will you do this? I mean, after a while in that relationship, you're kind of like, well, yeah, I'm doing all these things, but have you once asked what I want? And recently, and my husband is on fire for our faith, and he loves, I think it's called the Vortex, and then I know if he's listening, he's going to be so upset with you. It's Brad Petrie. Is that his name? Petrie?
Dr. Brant Petrie?
Yes, he loves him. So he's always listening and having me watch stuff, and so I'm not really sure. And now I just lost my train of thought. Give me just a second. Oh, where I heard this from. But it must have been probably through my husband somewhere that when's the last time that you woke up and you prayed, morning, God, what can I do for you today? What can I do for you? And that's what I've been doing. And I've also been, instead of telling a laundry list of things that I need from God and what's going on wrong in my life, I mean, like really, like we think he doesn't know what we need and we think he doesn't know our problems. My prayer is, what can I do for you today? Show me, what can I do for you today? And also, Father, what can you do for me today, but do something, just do what you need to do for me today to make me right, to get me right together, because Lord knows I need to be gotten right together.
Right,
so
right.
Do today what you know is best for me. And that prayer right there alone is just powerful.
Well, it's powerful. But Sonora, just to answer your question, when you put it out there, when you said is there a wrong way to pray? This is just my personal opinion, just from being in religious education for many years. I would say the answer is no. There's not a wrong way to pray. I think there's more effective ways to pray, though, because there's, like what you're doing is you're asking God to use you, and to further his mission. And that's an effective way. When we say, God, I want your will for me, what your will is, God, not my own. When you're giving that trust over to God, that's a more effective way. So I don't know. I just think, I would answer that way. I'm not sure, Jerry, if you would agree with me on that, but Sonora's call was phenomenal.
I would say exactly what you said. Yeah, Matthew 6:8 tells us he knows what we need before we even ask, but it doesn't mean we can't ask. And so, Sonora, thank you. You have really, I've no doubt, touched. You said there may be one person, maybe a million. Well, it's probably somewhere in between those two, but you have really touched a lot of lives today. God bless you. Thanks for calling Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
Bishop Robert Barron.
Just as Fulton Sheen used radio and TV in the last century, we need to continue to use Catholic radio to announce the Catholic faith in the public forum.
The leading Catholic voices are on EWTN Radio.
I firmly believe that prayer is communication with God. And if we know that God is a loving Father, why wouldn't we want to talk to God? The reality is we've got to talk to our family, we've got to talk to our friends, and if God is real, and God is definitely real, He wants to hear about our day. He also wants to know how we're doing and what our needs are. Prayer is communication with God.
The reason for our hope, with Father Larry Richards.
When I was in the Grand Canyon, I did an ecumenical ministry there, and I remember going out into the woods, and I used to always done a holy hour, but I couldn't do a holy hour in the Grand Canyon because there was no Eucharist. And so I'd go out and do my holy hour into the desert. I remember when I was talking to God, I remember starting to cry, and I says, Lord, when I die and I stand before you, I just want to hear you say, well done, good and faithful servant. I don't care if the rest of the world thinks that Father Larry was great or not great. The only thing I want is for the God of the universe to say, you did what I wanted you to do. And that's why every day I try, weak as I am, to look at that end goal in mind. That what I live for is the day I take my last breath and I stand before God in judgment. I want to hear Him say, well done, good and faithful servant.
I'm Gloria Purvis.
I'm Monsignor Charles Pope. The Morning Glory team talks about the Passion of John the Baptist.
Tomorrow morning, 7 Eastern. Now back to Take Two with Jerry and Debbie.
This is Take Two with Jerry and Debbie. We're talking about the fear of happiness today. So we would like to hear from you. There is an open phone line. You got plenty of time to call in, but Ryan's waiting. He's waiting to pick up the phone at 833-288-3986. And Sonora, if you're still listening, text message came in and said, I just love Sonora. That she thinks that she taught her son how to pray wrong. She got the conversation started. That's all that matters. It's all about relationships. I think she's doing great. That was a little affirmation for Sonora. By the way, Sonora's so lucky. She's got like a big winery in California named after her, right? Isn't that true? Is the Sonora wineries? Anyway, I've never been there. Have you ever been there?
I have not, no.
Okay. Just curious because you live in California. And then also, Helen, our friend Helen, she is so awesome. I know we're going to embarrass her, but Helen, I've got to share this email real quickly, and then we're going to get to Monica. Okay, Helen from Idaho, we just love her. She sent an email. She says, "Hi, great show today. Through my life, I've been the queen of pity parties, but in the last few years, I'm sure due to taking the sacraments and becoming a better Catholic year after year, I notice I'm not so prone to either pity parties or emotions such as anger, like yelling at my dogs. I'm happy to be happy and have thrown as God already has. Okay, that I must have misread that.
No, she is thrown as God already has. The past. She's thrown the past. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. See, this is why you read the emails. She's thrown the past as far as the east is from the west. Okay, that's what God has done. Instead, I am getting better at seeing God's creation, the truth, beauty, and goodness. Now, I love this, Jerry. Listen to this. Now it may be a big goal, but I want to be a saint. And wouldn't it be neat to have an incorruptible body? And then she wrote love and blessings. Isn't she precious?
Well,
I
she
can't
wrote
talk today.
he before that. He.
She did. She wrote he. I know.
And she put her custom, usual little rainbow and rose after her emails. Always love those, Helen. Thank you so much.
I can't read today or talk today. There's something wrong with me. Okay, Monica, it was your feast day yesterday, but welcome from Houston, Texas on Guadalupe Radio. First time caller.
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
I just
Go right
wanted
ahead.
to talk to you guys about I'm not quite like the previous caller because I had a great childhood, but then I hit my 20s and made a lot of mistakes, and my adulthood, all those milestones they started out happy, but then something would happen inevitably and it would kind of destroy it. Like when I got married to somebody I waited for 10 years, and then that lasted 9 months. It was a disaster of a marriage. And I bought my first car, and it lasted 6 weeks. Bought my first house finally at the age of 40, met a goal, and 3 weeks later it was flooded. So I've kind of learned over the years maybe not to get so excited about these things. And it kind of scares me because I feel like sometimes I can't relate to people very well. But I know that in the grand scheme of things, it didn't work for Joyce Meyer when she was crying on the toilet and complaining to God and begging, and it's not going to work for me. So I'm still trying to find ways to just be grateful because we have our health in the very least, right?
Right.
But it's
Debbie.
a struggle because I listen to people and they talk about their life, and I'm like, you're kidding, right? That's your biggest problem. And that's probably the wrong attitude.
You know, if I'm understanding you right, Monica, I think I share with you kind of what you're talking about, and that, as Debbie mentioned earlier, kind of that whole idea of, waiting for the other shoe to drop. And, I look at people who are having certain experiences in life, even if it's just sort of a momentary thing, or maybe it's a big thing, like you said, buying your first house at the age of 40. A lot of people would just get super excited about that and want to tell all their friends. And I do get excited about things, but Debbie, correct me if I'm wrong. I think I'm a little bit more reserved, and I think that flows somewhat from what we're talking about today. It's kind of like I don't want to get too happy about things because you never know what's going to happen. Is it actually going to work out? I think it's even more so with possibilities with me, Debbie. When I see a possibility or a potential for something, I'm very reserved, and I say not until it's happened,
Right.
I don't know.
I think you're on the right track with that line of thinking, Jerry, in the sense of that's the reaction that you can feel. You sort of, can I say this correctly? You sort of mini sabotage it before it happens. So you'll kind of criticize it before it happens. And you and I, we were chatting yesterday, Jerry, and we were talking about just personal things and goals and different things we want to do in the future. And I noticed you were doing that already. You almost backpedaled a little bit and tried to, but it also comes from a sense of perfectionism. In the research that I did, it comes from, if you have a perfectionist mentality, you will do that because you want to predict that it's going to turn out 100% perfect. And you kind of give the disclaimers ahead of time so that you don't have to say that it failed or it didn't work out the way a perfect mind wants it to work out. Monica, do you resonate with any of that, or do you have maybe a perfectionist? And then when it doesn't work out, it kind of just says, "I'm not even going to try this again."
Well, I have very high expectations. I grew up with a perfectionist father, and so when I do fail, I feel like it's me. It's not life, or just because everybody does have a sprinkling of issues, I feel like I'm worse, and I know that can't be true. I'm not that unusual. I think my perception is I'm just harder on myself.
Well, you might be, Monica. I think we all can learn a lesson together here, and that is, God doesn't expect perfection from us. Sometimes we do, but we need to try to see ourselves the way that He does. And, one good book that I've recommended many, many times, I think it's somewhat related on this topic, and that is How to Profit from Your Faults. It's by Joseph Tiso. And it is quotes mainly from St. Francis de Sales and others, and it just talks about how our imperfections and the failings that we have in life and so forth, they don't define us, and we shouldn't even strive for perfection. We should really just let God's love wash over us and just do the best we can, Debbie, because that's what God is satisfied with.
Absolutely. And I just want to say something about perfectionism, because this is interesting, Monica, and this is a very, maybe this example doesn't relate, but just hear me out on this. I used to struggle shopping, okay, because I would go to buy a shirt and I would inspect it to make sure all the threading was perfect and the buttons were perfect. And, if it had a floral design, the everything was perfect, or I didn't want it. And I remember talking to a priest one time, and he said to me, "Okay, Deb, I've got a challenge for you." And I was like, "Oh, okay, Father, if you really must, I'll take on the challenge." And he says, "I want you to go buy, when you go shopping the next time, I want you to find the shirt that has the most flaws and buy it." I said, "I can't do it." I said, I forget it. I'm not doing it." And he said, "Please, I'm asking you to do it." I said, "Okay." And I went to the store. I remember it vividly. I went to the store. I found the shirt, and it was like a polo shirt because I was golfing at the time, and it had a mismatched like size collar. It's horrible. It was horrible looking, hideous. And I took it off the rack, and I went to the counter, and I said, "I'm going to buy this one." And the gal even said to me, she goes, "This isn't even sewn correctly. Do you want to pick out another one?" I said, "No, I'm going to buy this one." And she goes, "Okay, I'll give you 10% off." I said, "Okay." I was like all excited. So I left there, and I said I wore it, and it bothered me at first, but then I got over it really quickly, and I went back to Father, and I said, "I did it." He goes, "What happened?" I said, "I got 10% off." I said, "This could really become..." So I don't know if that at all, but do you see where I'm going with this, Monica? I think there comes a point where you just have to say, you know what? Like Jerry was saying, it's okay. These imperfections and these things that happen, everything happens for an ultimate reason, and it's okay. Enjoy the journey. What do you think, Monica?
I agree. I'm trying to appreciate more life and just have patience and trust in God, and that's maybe what He wants me to do, is to just let things go, because my mother always says, "Well, this too shall pass." And I'm like, "Yeah, but you don't understand. It's so bad." And she's like, No, it'll be okay. And if my mom's not stressed about it, I guess I'm like, well, I'm not going to get sympathy from her. And in the end, Mom is always right.
Right.
Your parents are always right, and God, because you're kind of in a marriage with God, and since He's the perfect spouse, it's always you. You're the problem. So you have to just keep trying every day to get better and please the Lord.
Yeah, and also something you might want to try getting better at, Monica, is just loving you. Just love yourself and accept yourself the way you are. God certainly does. I know your mother does, and we do too. You've shared some of your flaws and imperfections with a global audience, and we're all going, "Hey, Monica, you're awesome." So we're all in this. We're all in the same thing together. So thank you, Monica, for your call. We'll be praying for you. Please pray for us as well. She's listening on Guadalupe Radio Network in Houston.
Yes,
all right, Deb.
Definitely.
Thank you, Monica. Yep.
Thank you, Monica. You should be enjoying the whole week. I know the feast day was yesterday for St. Monica, but Monica, enjoy it the whole week because you have a great name. Everybody loves the name Monica because everybody loves the St. Monica. Okay, yeah. Katie in Dallas, Texas, Guadalupe Radio Network. You're also a first-time caller. You get the virtual bell as well. Hi, Katie. Welcome.
Hello. I'm going to have to make this a little bit quick, but so it just kind of resonated when you were talking about how we react to things has a lot to do with some events that happen in our childhood. And whenever I have something real exciting or joyful that happens to me, I'm very guarded with when and who I share it with. And I was thinking back when y'all were talking about this, that whenever I would share something with my mom, she would always kind of like compare me to another sibling or to a friend's child, or tell me, "Oh, well, it would have really been neat if you did this or this and this in addition to what I had done." And I don't think that was her intent. But I mean, I'm sure it came from a perspective of wanting to help me do something maybe even better or whatever, but she was never just happy with what I accomplished or did or whatever. And my main, I guess, thought to that is that it just makes me sad that I, as an adult, I don't share those exciting news with my mom because I don't want to be, broken down. And so it makes me feel that I don't have as close relationship with her that I would have liked.
Debbie, you got a thought? I've got a couple things.
I do, actually.
Yeah,
and I'm not trying to be disrespectful to your mom, Katie, but this is just something that I learned through my own journey in therapy. That's your mom was unhappy with herself, not you. She's projecting that on you. So you have to kind of, like Jerry always says, reframe this and understand that I know that left an impact on you, but that was your mom's issue, not yours. So what you did and what you felt proud of as a child, you should. And what I would do is I'd go back to those memories that you have of the childhood accomplishments and I would praise yourself. I've done that. I had a dad who was very hard on me playing golf, very hard. I couldn't score, low enough or hit the ball close enough to the pin and this and that and that. And after a while, it was so overtaxing that I finally went back and I looked at all my accomplishments and all my trophies and all my things. And I said, Deb, you did a great job. And it was my dad's issue because my dad always wanted to be a professional, and reframe it, refocus it, and then start slowly sharing with the people you do trust that can celebrate your great things that are happening in your life. What do you think?
I think that sounds good.
Cool. I love it.
Yeah, well, I'm glad that was helpful for you, Katie. In fact, Debbie stole exactly the thought that I was going to share. Again, no disrespect to your mom or any of our parents, but this does happen. Parenting doesn't come with a manual, and no parent is perfect. But I was going to say it was perhaps your mother sort of recalling her own life's disappointments or what have you. But also, comparing you to your siblings and to other people's kids and so forth, that creates a sense that you can never measure up either. And so I love your advice, Debbie. I really do. That's because, see, here's the thing. God is outside of time and space. So with God, there is no time. He can heal anything at any time, at any point in our life. So even if we still feel like we're carrying a wound or a baggage or something, just take it to God. God can lift it. God can take it away. And those can become, Katie, for you, they can become moments of great happiness, great success, and achievement and happiness. Not in an unhealthy way, but I think in a very healthy way.
I love it. What do you think, Katie? Any last thoughts?
That is a really good perspective. And I, with my own kids, I have 4 kids, and they're all college or past college, and I do share with my husband joyful things, but I'm just very guarded who outside my very close circle that I, and when I think about it, I don't think, they're gonna not be as happy as I am. I just don't naturally want to share those things. You know what I'm saying?
Well, yeah, because you're protecting yourself because you've received disappointment in the past, and so why go down that path again? So you don't even want to share it. You're just keeping it all to yourself. But what I'm saying is if you find those people that you do feel very safe with, whoever they are in your inner circle, I think it's worthy for you to experience that, where somebody lights up and says, "Wow, Katie, that's awesome that happened," or just to kind of let you experience that. You know what I'm saying? So maybe, I don't think you have to do it overnight, but if you kind of test the waters a bit, I think it's a good feeling. I think it would be a good feeling for you. What do you think?
I think it would be.
Mm-hmm. I know I like it. I'll tell you, I'll be honest, because we're very transparent here on the show. Jerry's a guy, I'm a girl. Okay, he's very much reserved. And sometimes I'll pick up the phone and I'll say, Jerry, you got to hear this. I'm so excited. And he'll go, oh, that's good. So what what else are you doing? And I'm like, and it's just because and I know he's excited for me, but not in the same way I am. But at least he picked up the phone and he heard me say it. So I felt good about it. But you know what I'm saying, Jerry? Sometimes, we expect folks to have the exact same reaction we're feeling. And it doesn't mean they're not feeling it. They're just not expressing it the same way. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, and it's not so much. It's not completely a guy thing. I'm thinking of a priest I know, for example, who is just. I mean, when something good happens and he gets happy and excited. I mean, it is just like he's almost giddy, and he's so free around other people just to express that and to be happy and excited and share that joy with other people. And people love him for that. So, yeah, maybe that's something I need to work on a little bit.
Yeah, so the next time I call you with exciting news, can you just pretend like you're happy?
I will. Yeah, I'll rejoice. I'll drop the phone. I'll jump all over the place. And
Thank you. Oh,
okay.
Too funny.
Thanks again for that wonderful call. We're going to get to William. Hold on. I just want to mention our friend Jane emailed, and I was talking about triskaidekaphobia, the fear of the number 13, that irrational fear. She just reminded us that the number 13 is a very Catholic number. She says, think Fatima, smiley face. And she goes, may God bless Take Two. And I'm praying for the success of your book. Thank you, Jane. We are grateful for that. Always good to hear from you.
That's what I was thinking, Jane. Thank you. I love the number 13. It's a Trinity number. 3 persons, 1 God.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Jerry, did you want to share about podcasting? I love podcasting.
Oh, I do, yeah. William, hold on. William, hang on, in Clearwater, Kansas. One of the ways you can take Two with you, if I can put it that way, is by EWTN's podcasting. It's very, very common, very universal way of listening to your favorite shows nowadays or watching them if they're on video. Just go to EWTN.com and look for the podcasting link there, and you can set your device to download every episode of Take Two with Jerry and Debbie as soon as it is put up there in the archive. So that's podcasting from your friends at EWTN. We are everywhere, as they say.
I love it. Okay, in Clearwater, Kansas, on the EWTN app, another first-time caller. Love the name William. That's my dad's name, my son's middle name. Hi, William. Welcome.
Hello. I was just going to say, ever since I was little, I always tried to sort of control the situation because I felt like I was more happy than everybody else. And then once everybody was more happy than myself, since I was trying to control the situation and put myself underneath everyone, I felt guilty once they were happy. It led me sort of try to be perfect and control the situation. But until I realized that I needed to pray and give God the power and everything, hand everything over to God so that I can make other people happy, then things started falling into place to where I was happy and everyone else was more happy around me.
Wow. Well, that's great, William. You got a great insight into that, and you handle it the right way. You certainly turn to God for help with that. And I think many of us can relate to wanting to kind of control things. When a lot of what we're talking about here on the show today, when we want to be happy and that's kind of shot down or we're put down or whatever, and we can't really fully and freely express that happiness, then I think insecurities can develop. And when that happens, I get from my mother sometimes a very controlling type of personality because, you don't want things to go awry. You don't want things to go wrong because you want to strive for that happiness however you possibly can, even though sometimes, I'll speak for myself, it seems like, it's not going to come, but I still try and control things anyway. What do you think, Deb?
I think control is overrated. You learn very quickly when you get a cancer diagnosis, William, that I got in 1994, control goes right out the window. It's all about trust. It's all about trusting God. And there's very few things we can control. It's all got to be about God and focused on God. And we should be doing whatever we can to be pleasing to God. And then folks will be able to see that come through in how we have a Christ-like behavior to others. And then happiness flows, joy flows. But it starts with God and it radiates from there. And it sounds like you got to that conclusion yourself, William. And I'm so glad for you because you'll live you sound very young on the phone. You'll live a much healthier life physically. By letting go and letting God, right? What do you think, William?
Amen. Yeah, it makes me able to see God in every situation now, and instead of seeing William's world, I see God's world, which is what we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Amen.
Yeah, happiness is going to be a lot more prominent and prevalent in your life as you do that, William. Thank you very much for that call. Good to hear from you. From Kansas, first, Debbie, we have a lot of first-time callers today, all the time, in fact, it seems like nowadays.
We do. Absolutely. It's wonderful. But see how the Holy Spirit works? I love this. Jane in Rochester, New York, on iCatholic radio app, a great app. First-time caller. Jane, I know what you're going to mention, and I'm so glad I got it sitting on my shelf. I was going to forget to mention it. Go ahead, Jane.
Hey, hi, Debbie and Jerry. Thank you so much for taking my call. When I turned on my radio and I heard the topic about happiness, I immediately wanted to call in and tell all your listeners about this wonderful book called Resisting Happiness by Matthew Kelly, the founder of Dynamic Catholic. And this book, I read it a couple of years ago as part of my Lenten journey, part of his best Lent ever. And it has had such a tremendously positive impact on my life that I have bought more than a dozen copies and given it to family and friends, and not just Catholics, but Christian friends too. And his premise is that we sabotage ourselves by not doing what we know are the right things to do. And it's really, I've told my friends, the book should really be called Resisting God, because it's all about if you develop a deeper relationship with God, then you are going to be a happier person, because your priorities are going to change, your behavior is going to change, your attitude is going to change. And I mean, I'm not a perfect person by any means. I still struggle with a lot of things, but I go back to this book time and again because it has been so inspirational to me.
Jane, thank you. Thank you for responding to the Spirit. We would have forgotten to mention it. I have the book as well. I did the same thing, Jane. I bought multiple copies and gave it out. Matthew Kelly did a brilliant job on this work, and I hope if you were listening to the entire show, we kind of captured that. And so interestingly so, because we didn't even have the book with us in our view, and I think we kind of covered some of that with focusing on God and how we sabotage ourselves. So what do you think, Jane? I think everybody should get it.
Oh, absolutely. And it's a very inexpensive book. You just go to dynamiccatholic.com. I think they charge you like $5 for postage. And I also just wanted to say, too, that I think with regard to, to happiness, that it is a choice that we make. And you've been talking about some things that maybe your parents did or didn't do. And I can relate to that also. But I think, Debbie, you were right on in saying that, our parents, they're not perfect and they had their own struggles. Mm-hmm. And now that as adults, we can recognize that and we can go back and, celebrate the successes that we've had. And then at the same time, we can celebrate other successes that other people have, and remember to be really happy for our family and friends when they're successful also.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Amen.
I think that's a great point to end on, Jane. Thank you so much. We can have true happiness, and even if it has eluded us in our past, we can go back and as we've talked about, have God heal those things, reframe those things, and then, as you said, also be happy. Rejoice in the happiness, the successes of other people. I think that's so very important. And by the way, Matthew Kelly's book, Resisting Happiness, can be found at dynamiccatholic.com. I looked online real quickly. I'm not sure. You can check the EWTNRC.com, EWTN Religious Catalog. I don't know. Check that first if it is there. But, Debbie, I love, as Jane pointed out, Matthew Kelly, Dynamic Catholic. They put these books out for $2, $3, $5. We can't afford not to be well-fed in our faith with books at those prices.
It's true, and they make great gifts. I love it. Thank you, Jane, so much. Sydney, we're not going to get to you. Please email us. You have a very interesting story at take2@EWTN.com. Don't forget to like us on the EWTN radio Facebook page and also Jerry and Debbie Facebook page. And also, don't forget, go every day to jerryanddebbie.com. We're posting new webinars and stand tall rosaries, and everything's going to be coming out in the month of September. jerryanddebbie.com. Jerry?
Okay, tomorrow we're going to talk about how we treat our aging population, respect for the elderly. I think we're going to have a wonderful conversation about that. So until then, we want to wish you a beautiful and blessed day. Please pray for us. We always pray for you.